Addiction's like trying to run up a icy mountain without the right proper boots or ice picks or whatever. You're just gonna keep sliding back the exact same spot and never get any further, right? Or worse, and then recovery is just having a tour guide to say you could just go this way. There's a path right there. I don't know why you want to go this way. It's way harder, right? You don't even know what's over on the other side, right? But over here, there's fucking people, and there's a community, and there's houses over there, and there's a big, bright, shiny sunset, right? And, it may not always be perfect, but it's always going to be better. It's always going to be better. And, today I get to help so many people. My name is Arturo Enrique Vega, and I'm a group facilitator and technician here at Monarch, and this is my addiction story. I grew up in Phoenix with my mom and my biological father. And my childhood memories aren't super clear. There's a few that dad's not around, mom's there, grandma's there, my dad's mom is there, different relatives. And that's pretty much what I remember from that. And then we moved when I was in second grade, and I remember that specifically because I went to 4 different schools in second grade, so it was super inconsistent, right? And my dad was off. I never got the reason why my dad wasn't there, but he was, I believe he was using drugs and had law enforcement trouble, and there was a lot my mom wasn't willing to tell me, I guess, which is okay, right? Because it's what are you gonna do, right? You tell your 7-year-old that daddy's doing something he shouldn't be. So we moved to Chatsworth, right? which is cool, I guess. And for me, I'm just going along with wherever we're going, right? Powerless over my direction in life. I'm just worried about what the next meal is, as a kid. And then we moved to Santa Clarita, and that's where I resided for quite a while, right? Up until high school and community college. I moved to Castaic, right? And then that's cool looking back at it now. But I'm glad everything happened the way it did, because today is really good. And then moved to NorCal. But before I moved to NorCal, when I was residing in Santa Clarita in Newhall, addiction started right around, at least drug using addiction started right around freshman year. My freshman year of high school is probably where I started using, with just the first Don Julio, the amber color. My dad's liquor cabinet had that. I'm just a silly kid, so I filled it with water. You'll never find out. I like that feeling, right? That it gave me, and I think the first drug I really experienced, or that feeling of euphoria, was anger. I always had a lot of anger growing up and anxiety. And I didn't know how to control it, right? So having that drink felt relaxing, right? Then I started experimenting with weed. By the time I was a junior, I was taking tons of prescription medication that are painkillers, and I just remember being in class, right? And they have that little desk with the open slot for your books, and just breaking pills and having, just fiddling with all my hands and just not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? And like falling asleep in class, you know, using my lunch break to get high. And then it just continued up until my senior year, where the worst of it started to come.
You took pills and stuff from your parents?
Oh yeah. I wasn't, I didn't even know how to, you know, I didn't have access to a vehicle. I didn't know where to even get them. So it's just like in-house, pain relief, you know, influence from other people. Because as a freshman, I was hanging out with seniors. I don't know. I guess I had I guess I had good deception or communication, you know, to get influenced by why our seniors hanging out with the freshmen, right? Maybe that's where the addiction, like, was able to kind of find its way, you know, into my heart instead of my higher power. Never actually thought about that till now. It's cool. When I was a senior, right, it started to really amp up, mainly because alcohol and weed were the main two things. But there were several times where I'd wake up in the hospital and I'd have like throw up all over me, or my mom wouldn't know that I was in the hospital. I would just end up getting home. And that's how I knew it was bad. But I knew it was really bad when people, my friend group, started just dropping off. You know, they're like, you're just out of control, you know. The rage spikes were more intense, you know, and my parents didn't know what to do. My mom, I remember her saying one time in the car, I think we're on like right next to College of the Canyons at a stoplight, and she's like, so I think I'm just gonna send you to military school. And I just remember just like not saying anything, because I don't know what to do. I don't even know what addiction is. I don't know what recovery is. You know, the only thing I know is that like I like to drink and use drugs, and I hate school. You know, and then I got put into a psych ward. You know, after having a confrontation with my first girlfriend, and that is where the downhill really started to accelerate.
What was that like, being in a psych ward?
So while I was in there, right, yeah, it was pretty traumatizing. You know, it was, one, I don't know where the fuck I'm at, because I don't remember how I got there, right? I've had the full strap on, you know, with the freaking laces or whatever, and I can't move, and I'm in a room because I'm smashing my head. But prior to even getting to that, you know, I just remember fighting with people who worked there continuously, and like getting wrestled down, and, you know, getting you know, basically like a trank to calm me down, right? And I got like 5 full-grown men. I'm still the same size as I am now at 20, you know, 240, 6 feet tall, you know. It was really bad, you know. The funny thing is, those aren't even the worst times of my life. And those, I had food and regular meals and medication, but.
Tell me about your lowest point.
My lowest point? Okay. With alcohol use, and started dabbling into cocaine and other hallucinogenics, you know, and I was always taking psych meds and using, which is a horrible combo, right? And I was always just stuck. I would either be bedridden or so lost in like psychosis that it was just, I couldn't do anything. I didn't even know who I was. And I ended up moving to Phoenix with my grandma, and my dad came back into my life at a certain point. And I just burned every bridge, you know, but I also ran from every bridge as well. And I was homeless in Phoenix, middle of summer, addicted to drinking and, you know, using psychedelics, and spending all my money on cocaine. I was working these two server jobs to fulfill this need that I couldn't break, right? And I just remember being in the car all the time. I lost both jobs, and I would just spend money and just like be so manipulative to people. You know, like I could talk you into buying me a beer, you know, or getting me to share your bag. But I was just stealing clothes, stealing food from department stores everywhere, you know, and I was showering in a jacuzzi, you know, and it was rough, you know. Not only was I homeless, it was Phoenix heat. If you've been to Phoenix, it's awful.
Did you have any relationships at that time? Did you have friends? Did you have girlfriends while you were at this point?
During that time, I had a small group of friends. They were willing to put up with me. And the only girlfriends I had were other people's. You know, I spent my 2 years, you know, off and on, or no, I spent like almost a year in my car. But I had been running away from home since I was like 19. You know, till now. It's always back and forth, like person's garage, back to mom's house, didn't work, back to grandma's house, didn't work, and then just like living in my car a lot of the time. You know, like I would always mess up and start and just I was always like very extra, right? Plus my attitude and my anger and my drug using, like I think I thought I was slicker than I was when I wasn't, you know? And there was a point where I moved back into my dad and his girlfriend, his wife now. And I'd always cut the cord before anyone else could, right? You know, I could feel it coming before you tell me, right? Because I know how fragile the bridge is, right? So I'm just like, okay, like I'm a bounce before you kick me out, right? It's my choice, right? I'm grown up or whatever my dumb excuse was. And that was every family member, every single one of them, you know. And I'm not one of those like people who had like a bad childhood. Like I always had like the newest and latest electronic, iPod Nano, whatever it was, right? I remember those were like a hot thing for a while. So I had no excuse, you know. Addiction is just that powerful that I couldn't do anything else but just use continuously, you know. And I lived in NorCal, and I had a really good job with a restaurant company, and I became manager in like a month, and I was like, sweet, you know, I had like 15 grand saved in the bank, and that's like nothing. I've heard some crazy stories. People are blowing like tons of money, and I'm like, holy shit. But they wanted to promote me and move me to Hawaii to run a restaurant. And I was just living in like a rent-a-room. It was like $800 in like Dublin, California. And it was like really nice area, you know, and then just addiction just hit me. You know, I had like a few drinks on the weekend, and I'd already been through like 8 years of off and on running away and living with other people, staying at garages, staying in my car, right? Just super unstable. And I just burned that straight down, dude. All that money is gone, went, you know, up my nose, and I drank it away, getting carried away, buying other people drinks, you know, or whatever, spending just money like frivolously, like I'm gonna make that tomorrow or something. You know, I think it was gone in like 3 months. You know, just told them like, oh, I'll have rent next month. Like I'll even throw on like extra money. Was able to convince the landlord to give me a free month's rent when I had it. I just wanted to get high. Those like moments of desperation that I had that were like, it was almost like God was always talking to me, right? And I just wasn't like willing to listen until I was always just kind of like, what's my purpose? Like, why am I here, right? I'd always be screaming at him in my car because that's where I was living. You know, I just got like super tired of throwing up like every night and having no money and having no food. And, you know, I was sleeping in my car so much that my hand, like to my forearm and it would like stop on and off between my elbow and my shoulder. The whole side would just go numb, and I'd have like lockjaw, and my legs were just super stiff. You know, I mean, living in a Civic, I'm a big dude, right? So you can imagine how that's gonna work, right? And then when I sold that car and got my second car, and I lived in that car, it was a Chevy Volt, which is even smaller. You know, there was one morning where I forgot to roll the windows down, and this is when I was back in Phoenix. This was a cry for help too. Is I forgot to roll the windows down in the middle of summer, and I woke up gasping for air. I felt like I was drowning, and I kicked open the door. My seatbelt was still on, and I chucked my head out, and I was just like gasping for air, right? And I think there was no fresh air in the vehicle, right? But what really tipped the scale is that I'm in the intersection between Dublin and Pleasanton, where these apartments are and the freeways are between the shopping center. And there's a Motel 6. And this is after I burned that $15,000, lost the apartment. And this lady that I met, another addict or whatever, so drug user, don't even remember her name. She was like, yeah, like I'm going to give you some money for beer, and I'm going to give you a few tabs of acid and blah, blah, blah. So we're tripping bad, and I pissed her off somewhere along the night, and I was just like, I'm just getting my car and jam back to the hotel. And, you know, I did some meth too, and I'm sitting in this Motel 6, and I have nothing, right? When I'm homeless, right? I just spent my last, whatever, $89 for this fucking room. And I'm sitting there, and I could feel my heartbeat just start to increase. And like, I've been hot for a long time. I know what it's like, right? But I've never felt this feeling right here. And my heart was accelerating. My palms like really like clammed up. Like I don't get like that ever. And then like my neck, I went in the mirror and my neck was like so swollen. I looked like a fucking turkey. and like my face was flush, and I think we all have like a God moment, right? And I'm like in this room, I like look around, right? Like I'm freaking out now. There's just like that little Bible that they put in that room. And I just started praying. I started praying for him to put me to sleep. You know? And I think that is like the moment that I was like saved. You know, like not like, oh yeah, like I've been baptized, like that was a moment like I was saved by something much greater than myself. You know? And it just didn't stop there. I just kept using after I was better. That's how bad it is. Convinced my mom, you know, I'll get clean, you know, I'll get sober. I'll move back to Ventura. I ended up buying a house after I moved to Phoenix. came back to Ventura. I was like going to meetings, just white knuckling it. Had like a year, you know, just no program. It was just like just going to meetings, you know. I was like, yeah, like I'm gonna be clean forever, right? And I was working at the LA Fitness in Newbury Park, you know, and then at Ventura, here in Ventura first. Met a lot of cool people, you know. Started training people as a sales manager, and was making good money, and I was going to meetings, and then they were like, "Yo, you want to go to Agora Hills and help that gym out? Like, you got good skills. I think you're just in the wrong environment because like you're young, and I see how much you talk to people, but Agora's got a lot of money." So we sent out there, and I'm just fucking closing deals left and right. Like, people are paying $640 a fucking week to train with me, and I don't even have to train them half the time because there's another trainer who's more qualified, and I'm just closing them. I'm just bagging money. And I did so good. They're like, do you want to run the Newbury Park gym by yourself on the hill? And I was like, fuck, like this is like God's plan. You know, he sees how good I'm doing. I got there, and just like, there's like a thing with, I think my God is that like here on earth there's like our castle, and then there's like his kingdom. I was definitely like building my castle, right? My castle's gloomy. It's like unkept. It's dark, it's lonely. I ruined that, you know. Started smoking weed, and surprisingly, I didn't use anything else. I just kept smoking weed, but my behavior never changed. It never got any better. I lost that job. I was violent to a fucking coworker, and I lost that opportunity. And then I lived here in Ventura in my car, you know, in a Volt. It was all beat up and beat to hell. I cracked the window. I cracked like every door. Headlights didn't work. The electronics didn't work in the car. And then I ended up, I kept going to meetings, right? Because I didn't have anything left. You know, Mom didn't want to listen to me damage her property, and went to jail for a little bit. Yet always in the back of my head, like why am I here, right? Like, what is like my purpose that I'm supposed to be following? There's like great quote that like Steve Harvey says. If you ever listen to Steve Harvey, he says, in order to get to the next level in life, you need to lose something that you love. And I was like, oh, it's fucking drugs. In a whole, right? It's not cocaine. It's not alcohol. It's drugs. Period. Right, including weed. You know, it's just like, okay, like that's what I'm gonna have to do. It's just like stop everything, right? And then I go to this meeting. It's a huge part. If I go to a meeting today, everyone knows my story, because at least who go to that meeting, they know, right? And I go to this meeting, and it just starts, the speaker shares or whatever, and then like it's like open floor, and I just stand up and I'm like, this is my name. My name is Art. Like, you guys say you can help. Like, you know, I need help. I'm homeless. I'm struggling. I don't know what to fucking do with my life. I just sat my ass back down, and then eventually there were some people who vouched for me. And that's where I met
take a deep breath.
Yeah, it feels, the only reason it feels so vivid is because I wasn't using, you know? So it's like imprinted. That's what I met, you know, Tyler and Sean. You know, they're like, we're gonna scholarship you. We're gonna give you a chance. Let's see what you can do, right? And this is how I know, at least from in my own personal experience, God is real. He is good. You know, I couldn't pay for the whole first month. I couldn't find a job. I was just going to like 4 meetings a fucking day. Nothing better to do. Eating ramen, you know, not eating. And then I was like, all right, I gotta find a way to fucking pay rent, you know? And my car's beat to shit, right? And I'm like, I'm just gonna scrap it, see what they could give me. And they gave me the exact amount of rent I needed for the fucking room. And I'm like, I don't know how, dude. And like, that's just when like things started clicking. Like, I'm always gonna be powerless, right? That's how I felt like it's almost already planned out for me. I just gotta be like willing to follow the road that is gonna help me be my best version of myself. I think I was just so stubborn, you know, being so stubborn to not just take a look at you know, the other side of the street, which happens to be the beach, you know. And from there, you know, I just did everything I could to just stay clean. All the fucking probation, the program, obviously, right? Like, I got a sponsor right away. I started working steps. I was like the only person in my house that was staying up at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, doing these fucking questions. Because the more and more I did, the better I felt. And I was like, fuck, like this is helping, you know? And like, I started to notice like behavioral changes, you know, and I lost the desire to use before I came into that house, you know? I lost it when I was on the street, right? Because it was just that bad, you know? I just couldn't do it anymore. You know, 10 years is a long time, you know, and time's running out. I'm only 30 now, you know, my clean date being 7/7/23. You know, I did everything they asked of me, and I just always try to just outperform, you know, with everybody, not over anybody, you know, because that's what the program has shown me too, is that you don't do it alone, you do it together. And, you know, sometimes you may bump heads with people, but really like the well-being of that whole like sober, clean community is like just such a healthy environment to be, you know, in. And then the day came and they were like, you want to, like, how do you feel like being a manager? I was just like, sure, you know? And I'm like, how the fuck did I get here? I've been using for fucking the longest time, and they see something in me, right? And I think the biggest thing that like a lot of alcoholics and addicts don't look at is like the progress that they made, right? Like everyone charges up the hill, but they don't look back down it, right? And that's why I knew I felt like I kind of made it, right? Like, cool, like I'm now in this for good, you know? I doubted myself a lot, you know, because I was trying to always be the best. And that's like my biggest defect, that I'm not good enough still, even though I'm trying 110%. And then I started working at their intensive outpatient, just doing small stuff first. And then I actually started as a driver, just a cabbie, play the cool music and drop people off. And they're like, well, how do you actually want to like work here? And then I started like facilitating group, and I think it actually is like, maybe my purpose, my gift, like helping other people, but to be communicative, which is so opposite from my whole entire childhood. Because I was always yelling, screaming, breaking shit, I haven't broken something in a long time on purpose, which is cool. It's cool to say and look at. I have sponsees today. Have a healthy relationship, my first ever. That's a sweet plus. I've made all the family amends. All the bridges are reformed. I made them out of stone instead of wood this time, so they don't. It's a lot harder to break. Recovery is the best decision I've ever made for myself. But being a part of Monarch, just it's like putting NOS in a car that's already fast, and being able to have a full circle moment, right? Like I came in broken, afraid, hopeless, wanting to just get high and run away, even though I got nowhere to go. And then being a manager, this was like a month ago, had this guy who's still there, and I'll keep him anonymous, but he came in the same way. And it like clicked immediately. I was like, that's me right there. Look at that. How fucking cool. I'm like, dang, okay, like this is what it's about. Like this isn't what recovery is about, but this is what Monarch is so fixated on. And in my own personal opinion, right, is like, not only like, do we help people like evolve and grow and transform, but we want you to just break out of that fucking cocoon of addiction, right? And like, I don't know if you know anything about how like butterflies when they're in the cocoon, if you help them break the cocoon before they can actually do it, they aren't strong enough to use their wings after they get out, And I almost feel like it's like a metaphor for God or a higher power being able to let you go a certain distance, in addiction, right? And it's like up to every individual to like make that choice if they want, right? Because no one has to do anything, It's like addiction's like trying to run up a icy mountain without the right like proper like boots or ice picks or whatever. You're just gonna keep sliding back the exact same spot and never get any further, right? Or worse, And then recovery is just having a fucking tour guide to say like, you could just go this way. There's a path right there. I don't know why you want to go this way. It's way harder, right? You don't even know what's over on the other side, right? But over here, there's fucking people, and there's like a community, and there's like houses over there, and there's a big bright shiny sunset, right? And it may not always be perfect, but it's always going to be better. It's always going to be better. And today I get to help so many people, and it's tough. But I love it. I love it because I think that's what I'm good at. Isn't like training people, isn't, maybe that was what God was trying to show me, like how much I can actually help people, but in recovery, right? And like help them, like see through my shoes, or see just to see a different perspective, right? Because a lot of the time when we're in active addiction, or we're just trying to get clean that first time, like we don't know what to fucking think. We're just like, I just want to use and get high, right? But like, if I got to hold your hand until, I can't anymore, like I will, me at 20 versus me at 30 now is like way different, I plan to stay clean and sober forever. It's given me such a good life, and I'm so thankful for Monarch, giving me that like one shot. It was like that freaking Eminem song. So stupid. But it's true, and like that's a big part of my life. Just that alone, right? Is like I had these opportunities, and I just was just like, nope. And I just fucking burned it all down, right? And like that's just how much fucking God loves me, I was like, well, I'll just give him another one. Just give him another one. Give him another one. Until I finally was just like, okay, like enough is enough. It's time to grow up.
If you could go back and talk to your past self during your darkest moment, what would you say to him?
If I had the opportunity to, like walk back through time and see myself, I'd probably watch and contemplate everything about what I was doing from my outside perspective first. I would definitely want to hit me. That's for sure. Idiot. I'd probably say to me that I wish I could show you what your life will be like if you get clean on this date, which is my clean date, or now. There's a part in Vikings, the show on History Channel, and he goes to like the foreseer who's like blind and just he's like the fortune teller, right? And he says to this guy he's a drunk, right? And he's trying to find out what his purpose is. And he's like, if I told you, you would run on the beach naked. And I feel like that I can relate to,
So what do you wish people understood about addiction?
If you don't have an alcohol or drug problem, you'll never know or understand or have any ounce of, I think, actual help, right? Like, you won't know what to do if you're trying to help someone else and you don't have that problem. it's just like showing up to your job without your tools you need. Like, how do you do it? You know, you don't. You know, that's why in any anonymous program you go to, there's a part in the say that like these books are written by alcoholics and addicts, made for addicts and alcoholics, is because we share the disease of addiction, which they talk about, which is cunning, baffling, and powerful. And I think that those who don't have it, you know, bless you, you know, maybe there should be some like, you know, school knowledge about addiction that they teach, just as like a, you know, maybe like really early on, like 6th, 7th grade, so it gets ingrained, right? Instead of knowing when like Colonel Mustard fought for a fucking certain year, you know, something like a life, like you're gonna run into these people who have something, there's nothing wrong with them, you know, they just can't lose the desire to they're just addicted, right? They just have a disease that lives in them, and there's a gene that affects them differently. You know, like I can't have one beer, I can't have one smoke, you know. And I think the awareness is just really hard for people, right? Because they're like either like unwilling to accept the fact they have a problem, which is usually like, I feel like parents, because I've heard so many stories, and you know, as a manager now, they, you know, I talk to parents all the time. I'm like, I look back and I'm like, I feel like my mom, you know, like who the fuck, like why I'm going, people are asking me for advice. And I sound like a parent, you know, I got all these guys in the house, you like seek fucking counsel, you know, it's super cool, you know, I love it. But I think it's just like awareness, you know, if you know, you know, and the answer for that is like, you got to do the work, whether it's like treatment or like program, and you got to find ways to combat it, right? It's like a seesaw, you know, if you don't do anything, you're just gonna be stuck on one side forever, right? You got to do the work, you know, to stay abstinent from alcohol and drugs, you know, for one day at a time, right? That's what they say. Sometimes 1 second at a time is, you know, and like me having 2 years clean doesn't mean that I don't have days where I struggle, you know, because I could all lose it in one drink. They're like, how would you do that? Huh, I don't want to show you. You know, it could be real quick.
So what stereotypes or misconceptions about addiction bother you the most?
That's a tough one. Okay. Addicts and alcoholics are just tattooed, who are really nice people. They're just like everyone else. We just made really bad choices, you know, and that doesn't mean everybody, but I think a general consensus would be that we've made some bad choices. We've gone to jail, we've gone to prison, we've done some grimy shit to people, you know, and I mean, the center of disease is just selfishness at its core. That's why there's a thing called the triangle of self-obsession, right? And like in the middle, on all the points is, you know, resentment, and then anger and fear, right? And that's where we live because we're selfish, right? Every day, all day, we're actively using drugs and alcohol, right? And then we like work on the adverse effect, and I teach this in group, but not just like, you know, what it is, but like, how do we practice the opposite of fear, which is faith, right? What does loving ourselves look like instead of being angry, right? What does what does acceptance show me about myself versus having a resentment, right? And like, how am I being of service? Like, do I need to be of service, right? Am I being of service for me, or am I being of service for them? And why? Why is it important, right? And like, really just diving deep into, finding small solutions for small problems so they don't envelop into something much worse, right? And I think a misconception is that people don't know how to like talk to us or like help. And I think the easiest way to like help, right? Because let's say like you don't know what to do. The easiest thing is just being a human that can like actively listen. And just like you can just nod and just listen and just like say like, you're loved. I hear you. I understand you. It sounds like you're going through a lot, but maybe you should find someone who has a similar problem. Because like my mom never knew how to help me. Like she was just like, oh, just medication and therapy. And that was it. No, it's never worked, But I go to therapy twice a month, which is cool. It just takes work, You can't. It's not an I program. You can't do it singularly. You have to do it with the community, And weird enough, school has been showing me that I think the first like therapeutic community was like way long ago, and like 1950 or something, or 40, and they're all people with similar problems who are able to help each other through. Basically, when you have unity, everyone gets healing, right? Which is really cool. Because I was like not a fan of school when I started school. Back again, now that I'm clean.
What message do you want to share with other people that are struggling?
Whew. That's heavy. I think if you're struggling and you don't know what to do, this is the hardest thing. This is the hardest thing about anybody who's an addict or alcoholic. Because you're either ready or you're not. But if I had like anything, would probably be that the message that I heard from Steve Harvey, right? It's like, if you want to be whatever you want in life, whatever your dream is, whatever your goals are, your aspirations, like you have to be willing to let go of something in order to receive that. And hopefully that hits. Because I know if I told me, like, you got to stop using because you'll have a better life, I would have just been like, fuck you. You're crazy. This is the best feeling right now, right? So yeah.
Last question. How do you define recovery in your own words? What is recovery to you?
It's like doing anything the first time. Like if you ride a bike or you drive a car or, anything like that, right? I don't want to be dirty, but there's always this thing I share in meetings and people find it so funny. But I'm like, recovery's a lot like an STD because you never forget where you got it from. But it's the truth, right? Because once you have a taste of recovery and like what the program consists of, right? You will never be unaware, or you'll never have an excuse that says like, you'll just never have an excuse, right? That you're out, right? You're out of ammo for your bullshit, right? And it's okay to like fall short, right? Because we're not perfect, and that's just obvious, right? Like my sponsor told me, like, he told his wife, and his wife told me, but he told his wife that, oh yeah, like he finally grew up in recovery. I was like, what do you mean? Like, well, like I learned to become an adult through, steps. So like, it's recovery is literally like raising a child. Like you just walk them through every little aspect of what I'm going to encounter, right? You have to be like that. Like a sponsor is the person who's gonna just guide you through the process, right? So like you could lose the desire to use, right? But like you as the child or the student, right? You got to be willing to just say like, okay, right? Like I understand where I'm at. I can do this, right? There's gonna be a lot of pain, and there's gonna be a lot of tears, and there's gonna be a lot of happy moments and sad moments. But as long as I stay with the person who's next to me, right? Like, I don't have to go back to a life not worth living, It's so much lighter. But if I was to describe recovery in one word, it'd be lighter, freer. There's this guy in the house. He's like, how free do you want to be? You're so right. You're an idiot, but you're so right. It's amazing when you give yourself the chance.